Everybody, good morning everybody. We are here in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. It's beautiful morning here, and we're gonna see what we can catch out here in Calabogie Creek. We're gonna poke around a little bit. Tide's coming in. We'll see what we can get. Sometimes when the tide comes in, it brings in a lot of fish, but the challenge is that the reds and the trout oftentimes go up into the grass chasing the bait fish, so sometimes it's a little tricky to get them. I do not have all of those answers, but we are going to poke around, see what we can find today, so stay with us. This particular area tends to be pretty good, pretty active for as the tide gets closer. Tide's going to turn here pretty soon, and as that tide gets closer to turning, the bait fish start to sneak out of these grass flats and get washed out, and they start getting active around these grass flats. And when that happens, the trout and the reds are just usually right behind them. Now, last time we were here, the first sign of life we had was over here, so that's consistent. So much for my spot theory, right? Oysterfish. And again, as we've done many times before, hung up on the oysters, no big deal, don't drag on them, just get on the other side. Try to get as parallel as you can and lift up. Should come right off. Check our leader. Leader looks good. Go right back in. So don't let that frustrate you. If you're out here, you end up getting hung up on the oysters a little bit. Best thing you can do is just be gentle with it. Once you figure out you're hung up. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Alright, so we got bait fish activity here. Just got a bunch of little bumps. Let's see what happens when we just dangle here. Yeah, little tiny fish are playing with our bait, so that's a good sign. It means there's bait fish here, and where there's bait fish, there's predators. Let's see if the predators are in sync with the bait fish. Really, when you analyze it, what we're fishing for are predators. That's what we want to catch. We want to catch redfish and trout, and they are the predators in this ecosystem. We're using an imitation of their food to catch them, right? That's fishing. That's pretty basic. But it actually really helps when you start thinking about, okay, so where are the fish likely to be? And a fishing guide once told me, you just got to think like a predator. Where would I be? And actually, the fact that we're getting bites in here makes a ton of sense, right? Tide's coming in, it's wrapping around. If I were a predator, I'd be hanging out right in here. No energy. I just got to sit and hang out and wait for my food to come by on the conveyor belt. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. It's also kind of a dead spot here. I don't know if you can see the current break and the eddy here. And a lot of times predators just like to sit right in here. Ooh, like this one, who has taken our bait. All right, so nothing like being validated while pontificating. Mr. Trout has joined us, and we have our first catch of the day. And again, like to get kind of prepared here, deal with him. He has unhooked himself, which is very, very nice of him. He has his mouth open a little bit. See if we can take advantage of that. Oh yeah. So we got him safely on the... Like to wet my board. He's got a slime coat. It helps him to, helps his immune system. It helps him in a lot of different ways. And wetting the board helps me to not wear off his slime coat. So he is 14 inches. Just about on the money, 14 inches. Hold him up, get a picture. So there you go, pretty fish. We're gonna get him back in the water. There he goes. So, kind of doing the math a little bit, right? Where would the predator be? The predator might be right here in a little eddy where he doesn't have to work very hard. Cast into it, gave him the right bait. Sure enough, there he was. So, let's see if we can get another one. We just released that fish. We're just kind of sitting in the same spot. Now, probably we're sitting over the spot because this is where the fish tend to be. I suspect that he was out there foraging in a little eddy. And this is that eddy we were talking about right here. See how the current wraps around here and it just creates this dead space in here. Predators don't have to work very hard to be here, but they're watching the food come by the conveyor belt a little bit. So this is a great spot. We're actually sitting on the spot right now, so we're going to back up and get out of here. But it's a good example, right, of focusing on fish movement versus just strictly fishing a spot. Now, here's the thing. This spot is great now, but it's great now because of the tide and the current being what it is. It's not bad. It's good at this tide and at this place in the tide. So from that perspective, spots make a lot of sense. From another perspective though, on a different tide, if tide were moving this way, this might still be a good little eddy spot, but maybe not quite as efficient as it is depending on how the water is moving, right? So again, thinking about how are fish going to feed, what's a predator's priority going to be, where can I be, expend the least amount of energy, and get the most probability of getting an easy meal. And this looked like a good spot, sure enough. It was a good spot. This was, by the way, the same spot where we had our first sign of life, our first sign of activity. We got a bump. So my guess is that was this trout and his buddies. And here's the thing about trout. When there's one, there's typically more than one. Hey everybody, welcome. We just got chased off the water. We got a little bit of weather rolling in here, but had a good day out there. We got one trout, had a good time. Hopefully we pointed out some tips and tricks on fishing fish movement instead of fishing spots. Spots can be great, but fish movement and why a fish is there tend to be a little bit more productive. Not that it was super productive today. We only got one trout, but let's take that for what it's worth, I guess. But anyway, we had an incoming tide when we came in. What we did was we pushed back into the back of the creek with the incoming tide, and we started to look for eddies. We found an eddy. We got a fish just as the tide started to turn, which is sort of the pattern here in the low country. When the outgoing tide starts is a real good time to fish, and the entire outgoing tide is a real good time to fish. So a little bit of fishing here we are here in Hilton Head, South Carolina today, and hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on DIY with the Doc. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.